Yeah.
Hello, my name is Dr. Dale Caldwell. I'm host of Family Business World. I'm happy to welcome you today to our first show. Family businesses represent about 60% of the gross domestic product in the United States, 60% of the employees in the country currently, but 78% of the new employees. And so we're here to celebrate family businesses, and I'm so happy to have on my first show a friend and an outstanding family business leader, Debbie Schaeffer, the CEO of Mrs. G's.
That's
Welcome.
so kind of you, Dale. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, well, you're a legend. You're a legend.
Wow.
It's an honor to have you here. So to kick off the show, we're so pleased to have you.
Yes, thank you.
Let's let the audience know a little bit about Mrs. G. How old is it? What's the history of the organization?
Okay, so Mrs. G is an appliance store, community-based appliance store, and we're in central New Jersey. So to give everybody an idea, everybody knows Princeton, New Jersey. So we're just a little south of Princeton, but we're just on the border. So from Pennsylvania, a lot of our customers are from New Jersey and also Pennsylvania. So we sell all different brands of appliances, a beautiful showroom, but I say we're just not an appliance store. We have an experience. We love to bring a lot of chamber events at the store. We love to host. We have a beautiful kitchen, working kitchens in our.
But you're being modest. That is probably one of the most beautiful stores in New Jersey.
Yes, yeah.
It really
yes.
is. And so I don't care
Very
if
proud.
I don't care if you need appliances or not. You have to go to the store
Right.
in Lawrenceville.
Yeah.
And so you're doing events there. So
Right,
you're really
we
doing
do a
some
lot
events.
of events. So
Okay.
but we've been in business 84 years.
84
How
years.
about that?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so
But
proud.
you haven't been there for 84 years, but you've been in business that long.
Been in business. My grandmother and grandfather started the business in 1935 in Trenton.
In Trenton, New Jersey.
Trenton, New Jersey.
Okay.
And
So your grandmother was Mrs. G?
Mrs. G.
Okay.
And my grandfather was Mr. G.
Mr. G. Mr.
Yes,
and Mrs. G. Right.
Yes, and Beatrice and Abe Greenberg.
Wonderful.
And always called Mr. and Mrs. G. But my grandmother was the face of the business.
Right.
She was really the one that was on the floor and loved the community. She read like all the newspapers. She knew what was going on all the time. And it was originally called New Jersey Plumbing, because back in 1935, they had ice boxes. Right. They had stoves. Now they're called refrigerators and ranges. And then, so started off with plumbing, mostly plumbing and appliances. And then after the war, and appliances started to evolve, the dishwasher came out. It was New Jersey Plumbing and Appliances.
Okay.
But I would say in the 50s, because my grandmother was so much a part of the community, everybody knew who they were.
She was an unelected politician,
and
basically.
she was,
the
the face of the business.
Right.
Not only did they change it to Mrs. G, and my grandfather was so about that. He adored her. Face of the business, her face was part of the logo.
Right.
And they called it Mrs. G, New Jersey Plumbing and Appliances, and Mrs. G. Yeah, and then we slowly moved out of the plumbing and really focused on appliances.
Wonderful.
Yes,
but now I hear there were stories of layaway before there was layaway. Your mom for people of all colors and backgrounds.
Absolutely.
So tell a little about that.
There's really not a day that doesn't go by. Now, of course, we're into the third generations of families, but where people would come in and they would say, "I remember your grandmother so vividly because my parents, when they first came to this area from another country, or they were just in need and couldn't afford, that my grandmother would sit them down, want to know all about them, took a couple of minutes, and then they would walk out with whatever they needed, $5 a week, whatever it was." And
so she was like a loan officer for the appliances. She really kind of looked at the faith and credit.
People would say there was a very well-known pizza parlor in Pennington, New Jersey, and he approached me and he said, "Your grandmother was the first one that gave me credit."
Wow, wow.
I mean,
Wow.
it was amazing. Just a wonderful story.
See, that's the kind of history that's so important, because even now banks won't give character loans.
Right.
It all has to be on, and this country was made with character loans, and family
Exactly
businesses
right.
did that.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so you've evolved, and then your mom became the next generation, or
My mother grew up over the business.
Right,
Back in the day, you had the business on the first floor, you lived on the second
Right,
floor.
right.
And so she grew up and she worked very hard. She was really part of the marketing when they opened the new store in Lawrence Township back in 1971.
Okay.
I mean, she was all about the events. She
Right,
knew how to
right.
bring people in. She did a lot of the advertising. But she was ready to move to Florida
Right,
early
right.
on, and but she gave her a good part of her life working, and but my grandmother was there till she was.
Oh, really? So she was still a presence in the background.
She was 95.
Really?
Yes.
Well, now let's talk about you. So you started when you were a young lady in the business. When did you first kind of start working there?
Well, actually, I've really only officially worked there for the last 20 years.
Really? Okay. Okay.
I went to the University of Michigan. I was always very good in math and science and got an engineering degree.
Wow.
And I went into high-rise construction,
Okay.
construction management, but was very, very close to my grandmother.
Right, right.
And
Did you think you might get in the business when you were younger, or did you just say, I don't want to do this, I want to be an engineer, or what?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Right.
I mean, it wasn't really because business was just on its own, and
Right.
my grandmother was there, and everything was fine, and I was living in New York City like a lot of people like to do when they're young, and but then I started a family and took some time off, and then when the girls, I have beautiful twin girls, and when they went into kindergarten,
Right.
was looking to get back to work, and my grandmother says, "This is time.
Right,
We have to decide what to do with the business.
Right, right.
I'd like you to see if this is something you would like to do. I would like to be with you."
Right.
And we took it slow, and I think she knew exactly what she was doing.
Right, right. She knew. Well, it's funny, and the audience will hear as we go through these stories that the whole plan of succession. It's amazing how often the person that's leading the next generation had no interest or idea that they would be in it. They
Right.
go off and what I'm seeing is, because as you know, I'm executive director of the Fairleigh Dickinson University Rothman Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship,
Right.
and family businesses is one of our focuses, so we're interacting with family businesses literally around the world, that there are some patterns, and it's almost best for people not to go right into the business, to see that world out there and start to realize, this
Exactly.
family business thing is actually much cooler than I thought. Is that kind of what you experienced?
Well, absolutely. And I brought a lot of insight,
Right.
to
Right.
the store.
Exactly.
I came into a time where I call it the Walmart effect, where there was a lot of pressure going on with the business, the independent appliance store, when you had Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, Best Buy, and they just don't bring one store. They bring 5 stores within your delivery area. And it was a lot of pressure, and a lot of market share was taken, and I brought a lot of fresh ideas to the store. And I was so glad that my grandmother, was willing, to let me do some of the things. Most things worked,
Right.
because we're still here,
Right.
but some things didn't.
Right.
And you just move on. You learn from it and move on.
Entrepreneurs know failure is part of the process.
Absolutely.
If you're too scared to fail, you're guaranteed to fail.
Right, exactly.
And so let's talk about that, because again, you're legendary. Mrs. G is legendary, not just in Central Jersey, but really in the tri-state area, largely because you've beaten the big box. You've beaten the system that these big companies, and government gives tax breaks and all sorts of things to big companies. And in so many places, they've closed out the family businesses, which is really why I want to do this show.
Right.
Is to kind of let people know their family businesses here, support them. But how did you do it? What were some of the tricks of the trade that allowed you to survive and beat those big chains with all this money?
Well, the most important is when you're in a commodity business, that's pretty much where we are, is, how do we do it about price?
right,
and it's
right.
being a member of one of the largest buying groups in the country, and we're, which is in the Northeast, it's the NECO, and then NECO is a member of another another huge buying group, which is $15 billion in buying power. Wow. And so we collectively, there's independents from all over, they independently buy General Electric, they'll buy Whirlpool, BSH, Samsung, LG. Collectively, $15 billion in buying power. Wow. So price, we can compete on price, because at the end of the day, that's the most, right. But then how do you differentiate yourself from the competition? And that's giving outstanding, what I call customer experience. Customer experience before, during the sale, and then, but most important is after the sale. It's the whole 360. And how do we do that? With, a fabulous staff that we have, and on the sales side, which is what you see, but we have 21 store, we have 23 full-time employees. Really? I mean, it's a depth of really, really great team to, again, get that 360 of retail and give a great customer experience throughout that. And a beautiful showroom, as we talked about, a great selection, always up to date. But I would say early on, I was into social media a lot earlier than most. So on the marketing side, I think that helped, to get me out there. And I was always very part of the, community. I brought chamber events before. You have to be out there, one-on-one relationships. Yeah.
Well, so let's talk about, before we get to the community, but the social media presence. I mean, you are really legendary for being out there. And you did it before anybody else did that. I know you've had some.
Well, not before anybody else.
Well, before, as far as appliance stores, but appliance stores, you probably were ahead of it. Yeah. Appliance stores, most of them are they're old school, right? And so you really were ahead of your industry in doing that. Right. And so what's your strategy? I mean, and it's sure it's evolved over time, but what's the social media strategy? Because you're out there all the time.
Right. Well, so I first started on Twitter, and not too long ago, I got a happy anniversary tweet from Twitter, because it's been 10 years.
10 years.
2009,
wow.
I started on Twitter, and then I went on all these other social sites. But I think being early on, you really learn how to use them, because as they evolve, it gets more complicated. But each has its own way. But again, that's where everybody's eyes are. So, because I go into some of these events around town, and they go, "I see you everywhere." And where do they see me? They see me on LinkedIn. They see me on Facebook. They see me on Instagram.
So you're a celebrity.
And me as a store.
You're a legend. So we're going to take a short break now, and then we'll come back and we'll talk some more about social media.
With a woman without a lot of time.
Whether you're a gourmet cook or just want to eat like one, visit Rostelli Market Fresh, your home for the freshest, locally sourced ingredients to please everyone who loves great food. Our organic meats, quality seafood, and free-range poultry are cut fresh to order. Chefs create culinary-inspired prep foods made fresh every day, which pair nicely with our vast selection of fine wines and spirits. Choose from handmade pastas, artisan cheeses, organic produce, and grocery items, all from the finest purveyors. Rostelli Market Fresh, from our family to yours.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, You can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Shelter dogs aren't broken. They've simply experienced more life.
Every great company has a mission, and at Mrs. G, ours is to sell products and services that make life better. When you visit us, you'll experience a showroom filled with brands you know and love. Our products help you cook better, clean better, wash better, and grill better. We currently have over 250 online reviews with an average of 4.6 out of 5 stars. So check out what your neighbors have to say about Mrs. G. After all, they're our neighbors too.
Want to thank you for being the founding sponsor of Family Business World, of this show where we're going to celebrate all sorts of different family businesses. And the audience got to see in the commercial your wonderful showroom. I mean, it really is one of the most beautiful showrooms, and
Very proud.
I'm not overstating it. And so I say, whether you need appliances or not, just go there. I've done work with the sales staff. They're warm, they're friendly, and it's something you don't get with some of the bigger entities. So. And so the social media has helped you with that presence. You do some videos and other things about how to do certain things with appliances. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, so one of the biggest things when you're replacing a refrigerator is you need to take some measurements. Right. Many people come in and go, oh, our refrigerator's this big and this tall. Well, okay, that doesn't really work. And then we send them home to take measurements. So now when you're looking on our website and they're looking at different refrigerators, they'll see that you can how to measure a refrigerator. You click that on, a video of me comes up, and I really show them at 15, maybe 30 seconds long, but gives you the right tools. So, it makes an easier and stress-free process of replacing refrigerators or dishwashers, etc. So video has been very, very helpful. But social media in general, I have this story that I've told before is back in 2010, I get this call from Carol Campbell, who created Women in Consumer Electronics.
Okay.
And is starting this big organization back in 2010. She lives in California. They're creating an awards ceremony, giving out 5 awards to the leaders of women in consumer electronics. And she says, we're honoring you. You're an award winner.
Wow.
How did they do that? She's in California, and we're a community business, but she read about our story.
Wonderful.
How did she find our story? Because I'm considered a thought leader in my industry through Twitter. At the time, it was back in 2010. A lot of us were talking together about what was going on Twitter. And so that's what I'm saying, this social media, it gets you out there for people all across the country can find you. And then, they do a little bit more research and learn about you. So social media has been great. There's rules, that you have to go by. And I say that lightly, meaning, you can't
be too salesy. You can't over, you're too salesy, right. And,
and then on Instagram is different than on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is amazing today. If you're not on LinkedIn, you need to be on LinkedIn. It's the new Facebook.
Yeah, it really is.
It's very, and I've learned so much from LinkedIn. And that's one of the things I loved about Twitter, is that I always loved the fact that I knew about launches and new products before my reps did in their own world, because I'm reading it on Twitter first.
Right.
So,
well, and again, as I said, I'm running the Rothman Institute at Fairleigh Dickinson University, and but I also have a consulting firm around family business, and I had a chance to work with you around the time you won the Rothman Institute. Before I even knew what the Fairleigh Dickinson Rothman Institute was in 2012,
that's amazing.
You won the Family Business of the Year award,
yes.
which again, congratulations. And so social media was part of it, but you really have just done your presence and what you've done in the culture of the organization. And one of the things we want to make sure that folks understand on this show is that, so often, we think we're saving some money by going online. But the research is showing that maybe 2 cents out of the dollar comes back to the community or even helps to reduce taxes. But when you support a local family business,
Right.
like Mrs. G, and you go in and you buy the appliance, it's much more than the quality product that you have. It's giving back to the community. It's doing a lot for the community. It's really supporting folks. So you've been a face of the Trenton, Lawrenceville, Princeton community for a long time, and you've really partnered with some groups. What are some of the initiatives you've been working on?
Well, just lately now, I'm working on with the Mercer County Technical School. I have
okay.
this, there's such a shortage for, in the trades right now.
right.
So I just had a fundraiser at the store, was wonderful. Skilled Labor Fund raised some money for that, which is our industry, the National Kitchen and Bath Association and the Home Builders Association have come together to create the Skilled Labor Fund, and this is to generate money to go back to the technical schools around the country, and to really start to have more opportunity there, and especially girls, to tell girls you
young
can
women.
do any of these things.
Right.
So that's something. Skills USA, which is part of the trade schools. So I'm always working. Dress for Success was last night that I support. We talked about the chambers.
And you've done so much in the presence, and the thing about you and Mrs. G is you give a lot of money behind the scenes. It's not publicly, you don't do it for great headlines and other things.
Right.
And so let's talk about, you've been very active for young women. I have a 15-year-old daughter, Ashley Caldwell, and so she's looking at her careers, and you've been a leader not just in the appliance world, but just a leader as a woman-owned business.
Right.
And so you were telling a story about a trade show you went nationally. Tell a little bit about that.
So everybody knows the Sub-Zero Wolf Corporation. They are the beautiful refrigeration, and they were having an event for the dealers in Wisconsin, family-owned business, going into their 4th generation, and it was no spouses. It was a launch of their new dishwasher, and so only the dealers or decision makers, and this was only a few years ago, and quick story is that I get there, it was just luxury, first class, fly me first class. I get there, and at the event, I looked around, there was about 110 dealers there. I was the only woman dealer in the entire, and these are dealers from all over the country, also from Mexico, some from Canada as well. And we are and Sub-Zero's technically only sold through the independent channel. So you won't see them in most big box stores. So these are mostly family businesses.
Right.
2nd and 3rd generation family businesses around the country. So there are daughters, there are mothers, there are sisters, there are cousins, and I knew there were only a few women owners, but it really hit home at that event. And it was a beautiful event, but I wanted to just, after that, I really wanted to get out there and try to, because you have to encourage, you can't start when they're seniors in high school.
Right.
You have to start really showing them. I had a gift with my grandmother being who she was. My mother was also involved. So, and my children have 2 girls are 26, so they have a gift of seeing that legacy. But a lot of girls don't have that role models in their family, and
it's influence too. Again, I wrote my book, Intelligent Influence, and my consulting practices around this influence, and that it's not that people are born they're not born entrepreneurs, they're influenced, and so it's important to influence young women. And from a business standpoint, one of the family businesses that we'll have on later is a 6th generation business in Newark that has done manufacturing, And the daughters are kind of next in line, and they're actually expanding it to cosmetics. So they're helping the business survive because of the innovation that they have. And if you're not innovating, you're not surviving.
Right.
That's been your secret to success, is
Correct.
really innovating and thinking
Reinvesting.
differently.
Reinvesting. Yes.
But also reinvesting in things that other people wouldn't think about.
Right.
And that's critically important.
Right.
Before, and again, time always goes quickly on these. One of the most meaningful things I've seen for a small business is when we were working together years ago, that you had such a national presence that the head of I think it was a Republican head of one of the congressional committees and the Democratic head of one of the Senate came to your store to really talk a little bit about that, and tell me about that.
So they came to the store. They were having to make some changes in the taxes, and
Now this was the internet taxes, or for the internet taxes, and you led the fight here in New Jersey, and say a little bit about that. Yeah.
So so they came to the store and they really wanted to hear it from the trenches, and again, because of the presence that we had nationally through social, They really got to see, they came to the store, and we brought our accountant who answered a lot of questions, and it was amazing. It's amazing. They could really see that it was a challenge for us.
And let's explain for the audience. So the challenge was that you can buy an appliance on the internet in some places and you didn't have to pay taxes, but you go to your store and you have to pay taxes.
Right.
And that's just an unfair advantage.
Right.
And so you really fought that on behalf of small business.
It was a little bit of that, but it was also about how difficult it was for companies like ours to do our income tax ourselves.
Right.
Because it was so difficult that we would have to go and hire
so the bureaucracy on top of it, and
in order to really do it correctly and successfully.
Excellent.
And they were trying to simplify the taxes. So there was a little bit of both,
but the fact that out of all the businesses in the country, they were coming to you. And so unfortunately, I see we're winding up now. And so it's just been such a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to speak to you, a friend, and maybe one of these days we can do the show in your store.
Yes.
So as I say to the audience, I hope you've enjoyed our first show. Our focus is to really support and celebrate family businesses, and hope that you will shop family-owned next time you think about spending your money. So thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful day, and please watch Family Business World. Again, have a good one.